shakedown cruise for the new ice house, my new Eskimo pop-up insulated 3i. Let's see what we get. Out here on Birch Lake south of Ely today. Kind of a different lake as far as what northeast Minnesota fishing rules are concerned. I'm out fishing northern pike, and the slot here is 24 to 36 with one allowed over 36, but you can keep 3 on this lake as compared to 2 on most of the rest of the lakes around here. So apparently they're trying to thin out the little hammer handles in here a little bit and try to manage it as a trophy lake. And there's been some indication over the last few years that they've done this, that has indeed been working out. Generally speaking, the fish that have been caught, particularly in the summertime, have tended to be a little bigger than they were a few years back. Conditions are terrible today. Lots of slush. I pulled a sled out here, and the first 150 yards were probably 6 to 8 inches of slush with probably 6 to 8 inches of snow on top of that. It was pretty brutal getting out here. I worked pretty hard. Had to kind of modify what I wanted to do here with how I set this house up. I tried to begin with shoveling out an area, punching a hole, and it immediately flooded with about 2 inches of water. So that wasn't going to work. So instead what I did is I punched a hole and I kind of made a little dam of the snow around it and actually set the house on top of the snow outside of where the snow was soaking up the water. And that seems to have worked pretty well. It's not ideal, but you do what you have to do out here. My little buddy heater is keeping this nice and pleasant today, and the whole idea behind getting this is having some place that when the grandkids want to go out fishing, we've got some place where, depending on what the weather conditions are, we've got at least a place that they can duck into and warm up a little bit. So I'm hoping that the lake conditions are going to improve enough here over the next couple 3 weeks where instead of having to pull the sled out, the slush is going to firm up enough where I can take my snowmobile out and pull my sled. So that's the hope anyway. It hasn't been a particularly productive day. I lost a little hammer handle on a tip up early on, and then I did catch one out of this hole here with a jig and a sucker minnow on it. It was underneath the slot. It was pretty close. I would guess it was 23 inches, 22 and a half, 23 inches. Really not out looking for supper tonight, so I released that. And mostly, like I said, this is a shakedown cruise to try this fish house out and get my gear out and out of mothballs. And so this is actually the first time I've been out this winter. I've been an ice fisherman for my entire life, but I haven't done much the last half a dozen years, and the ice fishing equipment has progressed immensely over the last few years. I'm using pretty much what I've had before other than the fish house, and it works. My tip-ups are old. My tip-ups are at least 30 years old. The jigging rod that I have here is kind of what they used a number of years ago, and the whole thinking on that has changed, and I may have to update a little of what I have. On the other hand, if it still works, it still works, so there's no sense putting a lot of money into something new, even because this works okay. Did get a visit from the local game warden today. Not unsurprising, this is pretty close to his home, so he checks this quite often. Came in, we had a nice little chat. And apparently he'd been out fishing this morning and hadn't had much for luck, and really was surprised at how few people are actually out fishing. This area that I'm in now, we talked about at times this time of year, we'll have 25 up to 30, 40 people out here fishing. And today I saw 3 other people, 2 in one group and a single guy that was out a little earlier when I got here and left. So really there's only 3 of us out here today. The ice conditions might be part of that, but I've kind of been checking on this area since Thanksgiving, and there really hasn't been much for fishing out here, and no way that I can explain it. I just don't know. There's not been a drop in the amount of fish caught as far as I know. This has been a popular fishing spot ever since I moved up here in the late 70s, and has always been highly productive, especially after early ice. So I guess there's other things going on to keep people busy rather than fishing, but yeah, we'll see what happens.